Good evening. Thank you all for joining us this evening as we meet and hear from the candidates for Clear Creek ISD Board of Trustees at-large Position A. My name is Ashley Quinones with Memorial Hermann Health System, and I'm honored to serve on the Board of Directors for the League City Regional Chamber of Commerce, as well as chair our Chamber's Legislative Affairs Committee. The League City Regional Chamber of Commerce is proud to introduce the candidates to our community this evening. While the Chamber does not support one candidate over the other, we do want to provide a fair and impartial forum for you, the voter, and assist in informing you about the candidates' views in their own words. Most importantly, we encourage you to vote, as we all know our future depends on it. Our candidates for at-large Position A of CCISD Board of Trustees are, in alphabetical order, Jonathan Cottrell, Michael Creedon, Marlene Montesinos, and Kevin Oditt. For background information about the candidates, you're welcome to visit ccisd.net to learn more about them. We also encourage you to read about the candidates and be an informed voter. At this time, I would like to turn the forum over to our moderator for the evening, Dr. Glenn Freedman. Take it away, Glenn.
Thank you very much, Ashley, and good evening, everyone. Welcome, candidates, and thank you all for tuning in from home or wherever you may be. The questions for the League City Chambers Forum have been framed to elicit responses reflecting how each candidate would make decisions as a board member. We have questions from the community and questions about Clear Creek ISD issues and programs that board members would be expected to know about. Now, here's our format for the evening. First, 1-minute introductory comments from each candidate. Second, we'll discuss current CCISD issues. All of the candidates will be asked questions, the same question facing the board, questions facing the Board of Trustees. These will be 2-minute responses tonight, and we'll have 2 rounds. Then we'll have a fast and furious round in which each candidate will pick a number between 1 and 10, and I'll read a question corresponding to that number, and the candidates will have a minute to respond. Then we'll have questions about the entire CCISD service region. This section will deal with the whole district and how the candidates would represent all of us as a school board member. And that'll be another 2 rounds, and we'll finish off with another fast and furious round of 1-minute responses and closing comments. And with that, we are ready to begin. The order for the introductory comments will be alphabetical by last name. There'll be 1 minute in duration. And Mr. Catrell, you have the honor of having the first name in the alphabet of this group. And we'd appreciate your introductory comments, please.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Dr. Freedman. Thank you, Ashley. Thank you, League City Chamber of Commerce, Regional Chamber of Commerce, and I-45 now. My name is Jonathan Chattrell, and I'm a product of this community. I've lived here for more than 35 years and a father of 3 children in the district. I've spent the last 10 years advocating and supporting the district in a voluntary way through being a PTA president for 2 years at Gilmore Elementary. Also served the Clear Lake Area Chamber of Commerce as a member, as a board of director and executive board member for over the past 10 years. I've served on various committees in that organization, including education. And during that time, education, that priority to me, took me to Austin over the last 10 years in order for me to provide safe and adequate schools for our community and our children. I look forward to your vote. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Creedon, your introductory comment, please. Did we lose Mr. Creedon?
Yes, we did. Just so that everybody is aware, Michael Creedon was stuck in a
he may come back in. Dr. Montesinos, your introductory comment, please.
Gladly. Thank you. Good evening, Dr. Freeman, Ashley, and everyone that is listening to this stream. My name is Marlene Montesinos, and I am running for at-large position A. I would like to work with you as board trustee. I bring to the table measured, thoughtful personality. I take my time in listening and obtaining the facts before making a decision. And I am not militarily rigid or authoritarian. And as a woman, I have heightened empathy and intuitiveness, further developed with my training and experience in human rights and conflict resolution. However, I am also passionate about education, and I'm decisive and to the point when need be, even if it is unpopular. I firmly believe in education as the road to success. I have 2 doctorates that have opened the doors for me. I want our youth to seek their highest potential as well. I also believe that there's a need for students to identify with role models similar to them, and there is a lack of diversity at present. Finally,
We've hit the time limit, Dr. Montesinos. Mr. Oditt, your introductory comment, please.
Yeah, good evening. Thank you, Dr. Freedman, Ashley. So my name is Kevin Oditt, and I'm also running for the CCISD trustee at large. I retired from the Coast Guard this past October after serving 28 years, and I had the opportunity to be able to finish up here in Houston as a commanding officer, where I oversaw 17 units and 1,100 personnel, including the Coast Guard's largest response, one of the largest responses ever to Hurricane Harvey. So I think my leadership skills and experience will allow me to bring a fresh, new, unique perspective, I think, to the tough challenges and tackle some of the tough problems that CCISD will face. Most importantly, I think a trustee needs to ensure transparency and accountability in the budget and policy decisions. And I'll say that I have I've been very successful and have a proven track record at overseeing large organizations with competing demands, and I know how to make tough decisions. So that's just what I'll have to do as a trustee. So I look forward to getting your vote. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I'm assuming that Mr. Creedon has not been able to get back on. Just so our listeners know, he was unfortunately caught in a traffic jam caused by an accident over on 146, and we're hoping we can get Mr. Creedon back. But we need to go on, and the first set of questions is about issues facing CCISD. Dr. Montesinos, we'll be beginning with you for this round, and the questions for everyone, as you can see, will come up on the bottom of the screen. And here's the first question. Some people claim that bonds are just another way to squeeze tax dollars from us poor citizens, and it's a result of poor planning. Other people claim bonds are a critical part of strategic and tactical planning, operational effectiveness, and long-term cost savings in the interest of providing a great educational environment. My question to you is, what is your understanding of bonds and how they work?
well, bonds are nothing new. This has been taking place throughout history. I remember that back about 10 years ago, I was president of the Baytown Hispanic Chamber, and I was able to assist in getting the bond passed for the school system. And sometimes it's necessary in order for us to be able to provide the needs of the school system. I do believe, however, that CCISD has been very fortunate in how it has been able to be funded actually. And there hasn't been an increase of taxes, of property taxes. There has actually been a market value increase, which is different than the taxes themselves. So to me, the importance of the students take first place, and whatever we need to do is what we have to carry out that to happen. Now, that's not the only source of income. We must know that state and federal income that we can access to fund our education, and that there is also investments, and of course, good stewardship is always the best avenue to go. So to answer you in a summarial way, a bond, if needs be, it needs to be accessed, and avoid having to increase taxes, which doesn't necessarily mean that having a bond will increase taxes if the properties are valued at a higher amount, which is the case with us.
Excuse me, we've hit our time limit. I'm sorry. Mr. Oditt, would you like me to repeat the question, or do you have it?
No, I have it. Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you.
Sure. So I think first and foremost, CCISD has to be a good steward with the taxpayer money. Now, bonds are a critical part of how the trustees ensure that CCISD, the teachers and the educators, administration have the right infrastructure and the tools to ensure that they're successful and ensure that our kids are able to learn and provide them that learning environment. What's key, though, I think, is that the bonds, you had a critical point here. I think we need a strategic plan. And I feel right now that really, you go and take a look at if you all about bonds or visions until we have a strategic infrastructure.
I think we've lost Mr. Oditt's feed. We've lost his feed. I'm going to move to Mr. Catrell. Same question. Would you like me to repeat it, or do you have it?
No, I've got it. Thanks very much. Thank you, Dr. Freedman. Bonds are the same way how homeowners have a mortgage to buy a house. School districts borrow money in the form of bonds. Those bonds are used for major renovations. Sometimes they're used for school buses as well as technology. I served on the Facility Advisory Committee prior to the last bond being passed. So the way that the communities and the trustees handle any consideration before there's a bond vote, which, remember, bonds are voted on and approved only by the voters in the district. But as a member of the Facility Advisory Committee, it was very important for us to walk the campuses and see the condition of
aging on your end, TJ.
And to walk the every campus that was being considered for any updates. Where we're at right now is Ross Elementary is being the next part of that bond that was passed. And understand this, the misnomer that your taxes will go up because a bond passes is not accurate. Our taxes have gone down since the last bond, so it's not a tit for tat that you're always going to have a tax increase just because there is a bond. There was anticipated tax increases that the taxes are actually lower now than they were whenever that bond passed previously. So it's an ends to a means sometimes. Unfortunately, there's no cash to afford building a new school or new buses, or even sometimes technology to do that. But being fiscally conservative is necessary always.
Thank you. Mr. Oditt, are you back? Mr. Oditt, can you hear me? I'm not hearing you.
I can hear you.
You can hear me? I wanted to give you a chance.
I can hear you, yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Take another minute and finish your thought on the bond question, please.
Sure. Bonds are a critical part of ensuring that we have the right infrastructure and tools for schools and teachers to be successful. But my view is that we don't need any new bonds until we have a strategic infrastructure plan. That means we have a 5, 10, 15-year plan on how we're going to invest in the infrastructure that we need. So, for example, you just look at the portables that are around the school district. What's our plan for the portables? So not only should we not have any new bonds until we have a strategic plan, we should only spend bond money on the projects that are in the bond proposal. So that means we should be returning any bond money that's not spent to the taxpayers. So I think we do need to be more strategic about it, just as the question is asking. and not be short term and use the monies for other purposes that aren't what the voters voted for. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I understand Mr. Creedon is back with us. Mr. Creedon, I'd like to give you a chance to take a minute for your introductory comment, please. I apologize to everyone for backtracking just a little bit, but in fairness to everyone, I wanted to be sure Mr. Creedon had a chance to introduce himself to you. Mr. Creedon, the mic is yours.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to speak to the audience today. My name is Michael Creedon, and I'm running for the at-large position A. I'm married. I have 3 boys in the district. We've been a resident of League City for over 20 years. I work with ExxonMobil as a manager. I'm a reserve officer with the rank of colonel. I have a tremendous amount of experience with strategic planning, critical thinking, budgetary management, leadership, and I have a tremendous passion for education. I think I can truly help the board with the problems that will be confronting it in the future, whether it's fiscal problems, as this question was about, or whether it's pandemic related, or how to propel the district to being not just 50th or 60th within Houston, but it be in the top 10, top 20, all in the best interests of our 42,000 students. So I'm really looking forward to this forum, and thank you for inviting me.
In the interest of time, and Mr. Oditt, I'd like to start with you, if I may. There are at least 2 ways. By the way, this is a question that came from the community. There are at least 2 ways to think about 7-0 votes on any school board. First, that groupthink has taken over, and the board is just a bunch of puppets. Second, that routine business is obvious and uncontroversial, while other business is vetted through workshops or Q&As before a vote, so that consensus is reached and issues are addressed prior to a vote. Which model do you think better describes CCISD's Board of Trustees, and how would you contribute to making excellent decisions within the framework of a public board?
That's a great question. So I think it should be a combination of both. Unfortunately, though, I think we see too many 7-0 votes. Now, if it's a routine issue, I absolutely think it should be a 7-0 vote. But there should be, we should be able to agree to disagree at times, and we should have a lively debate. That's the reason why the public elects us, and we have different representations across the community. So I think it shouldn't be controversial, I think, but I think there should be lively discussion and debate, because we're talking about our children, that we're talking about their futures. We're talking about a huge budget that they're dealing with, $380 million. So we should be discussing it and engaging on wanting to come to a 7-0 vote. However, I've engaged in a number of work groups and organizations throughout my career, and I tell you what, you do have to compromise. But at the end of the day, you need to look out after what's best for our children, and then also being a good steward of the public's money, and also making sure that our teachers are successful. So I think it's all about compromising, but it should not be about getting to a 7-0 vote.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Catrell, your thoughts on the subject? And if you'd like me to repeat the question, I'll be glad to.
No, I'm good, Dr. Freedman. Thank you very much for the question. Look, I've been in negotiations all of my professional career life, and it's nice whenever you can have compromise and walk away with a win-win. Unfortunately, it doesn't always happen. But the important thing is that as a trustee, you're a team, and you walk out of it and you support the final decision, whether it was or wasn't in your favor. You need to support what that decision was. That's part of the teamwork as a board of trustee. The think tank that it should always be 7-0. In a perfect world, maybe we all agree, but it's not always going to work out that way. I think people should speak their mind clearly, and in trustee meetings speak openly, so that everybody does hear their side. I think that there's possibly some compromise that hasn't happened in the past, that I would definitely bring my experience to the table to find that compromise, to hear all sides of it, and try to reach an agreed vote that, in a perfect world, that we could all say we have a 7-0 agreement. But bottom line, at the end of the day, we all walk out as one and have to support the decision that the board made together.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Creedon, same question. Be happy to repeat it if you so choose.
No, thank you. I'm good with the question. Look, I'm not a board member, so I would be hesitant to speak as to why there's 7-0, whether that is compromise or whether that's vetting ahead of time or whether the issues are somewhat benign and not worthy of lively debate. I do believe, though, that each board member should vote according to how they feel is in the best interest of the students. And that vote should be reflected on the record. And one would presume from that not everything would be 7-0. And certainly I would propose that how I would operate. I will vote as I see it's in the best interest of the students through the feedback mechanisms I get. And I can commit that to the voters that that's what I do.
Thank you, sir. Dr. Montesinos, same question.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Freeman. I don't have any for repetition, if that's what you were going to state. So thank you. I believe that the problem is not so much that there is just a 7-0 vote. It's the fact that in some meetings there has been disagreement that is obvious to the public, and all of a sudden people go behind doors, and when they come out, it's all done, and then there's a 7-0 vote. So there's a need, I think, for transparency. We need, the public needs to know what takes place, what changed in that meeting for that situation, for that voting to take place. And having said that, I of course bring to the table the fact that I'm a mediator, an arbitrator, a professional negotiator. So I'm always looking to resolve any problem. Life is full of conflict. So being with people that have different experiences and that see things differently, there's obviously going to be some conflict in there. So we must voice them, and we must advocate for our students' best interests, and that should always be foremost in our mind. I believe that when there is a problem, that we ought to let the public know. And as one of my colleagues said, there will be times when we must agree to disagree, or know that we're not going to get everything that we want, but it's going to be the best that we can arrive at. So that's really the problem of the 7-0 vote.
For the fast and furious round, these are 1-minute responses. We're going back around, and Mr. Catrell will be starting with you. Pick a number between 1 and 10, please. Could you hear me?
I was muted.
Pick a number. Pick a number between 1 and 10, please. Number 5. This is a free association question. I'm going to say 3 common education terms, and you tell me what each one means in a very short order. First one, STEAM education. What is it?
Well, acronym: Science, Technology, Engineering, Arts, and Math. Not sure.
Second question.
I don't have time really to explain everything, but
no, that's okay. You know what it is.
yes.
The next question, what is a dual degree program?
Clear Horizons Early College High School. It's a collaboration between CCISD and San Jack that we have.
And the next quickie is, what is an alternative high school?
It's an excellent resource we have. It's clear. One of them is Clearview. Clearview High School is for students that don't get lost in the weeds because of maybe some poor decisions they made along the way.
Thank you. Mr. Creedon, number between 1 and 10, please.
3, please.
Got it. I'm going to mention the names of 2 Clear Creek ISD initiatives. Please tell me what makes them distinctive and popular. Clear Connections.
Clear Connections is the ability to go for remote learning full time. It's an awesome opportunity for people who want to embrace that type of technology and have their children participate.
Thank you. What is the CCISD Parent Assistance Center?
This is a center that will provide resources to parents to assist them in furthering their child's education, whether that be through special services or remote learning or any other issues that impede or potentially form barriers to learning.
Thank you very much. Dr. Montesinos, number between 1 and 10, please.
Let's try 7.
Number 7. Clear Creek Independent School District has a program called Healthy You. It addresses healthy families, including physical, emotional, technical, and stress-related concerns, among other things. In your opinion, is this a good use of district resources, or should this be handled by external agencies, and why?
No, I believe that this should be handled by the district. We need to make sure that we look at the students as a whole. It's not, we cannot look at the student in a vacuum thinking that that child is only what we impart at the moment that he's in the classroom or he is online. Everything comes together, and health is one of the, as we know now, especially with the COVID, is of extreme importance. Whether the vaccines work or not, or later may have whatever issues, we need to strengthen our bodies and our autoimmune system. So physical activities also play into all of the well-being of the self, and the emotional part, taking into consideration the mental situation.
We've hit our time limit. Mr. Oditt, a number between 1 and 10, please, sir.
7.
We just had that one.
Oh.
Another one?
8.
Number 8. This is agree or disagree, and why? The single best way to assess a student's day-to-day learning is through the use of standardized tests.
So it's a loaded question.
Thank you.
For measuring how well they're doing, but I'm not, I think we over test right now. So honestly, we need to come up with a better way in order to assess how our school system is and the progress that our kids are making through this system and how teachers are doing it to make sure that we're hitting the mark. But I do believe we over test, and the standardized tests probably need to be reevaluated in how they're applied and when they're applied.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Catrell, another number from you, please.
Do we have number 1 available?
Number 1 is available, and here it is. How do nonprofit organizations play a role in supporting CCISD's students and teachers? Give examples from your experience.
Absolutely. So having served on several boards that are nonprofits, including president of PTA and the Clear Creek Education Foundation, nonprofits are wraparound services. For example, another organization that I support is Communities in Schools. So all of these nonprofits play a vital role and provide, for the most part, something different. And that's something that I have experience in. So should we have a student that needs a backpack, I know which one to go to. Should I have a teacher that wants a grant for a coding club, we know that we're going to go to the Clear Creek Education Foundation. So I have lengthy experience with so many different nonprofits within CCISD. I would bring them all together and know where to go anytime somebody needs something.
Thank you very much. Mr. Creedon, a number between 1 and 10, please, that hasn't been taken.
Number 2.
Number 2 it is. I'm going to mention the names of 2 Clear Creek ISD school districts. Please tell me what makes them distinctive within the district. Stewart Elementary.
I know where it is. I pass by it every day, but I'm afraid I cannot explain what's distinctive about that school.
Okay, Clear Path High School.
Clear Path is a high school that provides, no, I'm going to pass on that one as well. Sorry.
Okay. No, that's fine. Dr. Montesinos, a number from you, please.
4. Have we taken?
Number 4. According to Rice's Kinder Institute, in 2019, the national per pupil expenditure was $12,612. The average in Texas was $9,606, which ranked us 41st. CCISD's per pupil expenditure for instruction and operations for this year is about $9,000. It was less in 2019. Numbers for the audience, please.
I don't know the data that I wish I had. This is one of the things that I want to be instructed in as the board member or as the training of the board. But I have been interested in the numbers that CCISD has brought out, which at times have been higher than even 1 year of undergraduate in M, and even higher than the regular amount of HISD school system. I believe perhaps, and this is just a guessing on my part, that due to this pandemic, the expenses were different, which might have resulted in lower amounts. I really do not have a definiteness as to this matter.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Oditt, numbers 6, 9, and 10 are still open. Which one would you like, please? I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. You're on mute.
10.
Number 10. There are 2 biases that often affect board members' decision-making. Confirmation bias, or seeing what we expect to see and already believe in, and desirability bias, which means that we're seeing what we want to see. How do you, as a board member, combat these common tendencies when making decisions?
So these are common biases that we all as human beings have. So we all have our predetermined beliefs, and that's what confirmation bias. So we're going to solicit a response or an answer that just confirms that belief. So the best way to combat it is to actually listen, talk, and be willing to engage others to understand whatever the topic you may be discussing. So I think it's something that we all need to protect against. So as a board, that's where, we talk about that 7-0 vote. I think that's where there's an opportunity. We all bring different perspectives to the board, and that's where you need to be willing to listen and talk. And at times you'll agree to disagree, but there may be times when somebody can convince you that there may be a direction, or you'll want to compromise, which helps to protect the board against the confirmation bias at the end of the day.
Thank you. Now we're on to the next round, which will be questions for the whole group. And we're going to be leading off with Mr. Creedon this time. These are questions about CCISD overall. Here's the first question, sir. As a school board member, what is the appropriate response to the efforts of any special interest group who wants to censor existing curriculum or even propose new curriculum that's perceived by them to be in conflict with their personal beliefs? What is your response? It's on the screen there, I'm sorry. What is your response to that kind of situation, sir?
Any group of people that have an issue that they wish for the board or wish for the school to take action on or to take a look at, you have to encourage them to document it, pull together exactly what their views are and what it is that they are offended by, or what it is that bothers them. Submit that in writing, and then the board can move that over to the superintendent and the school for an assessment of that. I'd have the administration make a recommendation, and if required, the board would get back involved to either further that or reject it. But I think there's certainly a need to have those types of issues brought forward, and there's a need for the administration and the board to respond to them.
Thank you, sir. Dr. Montesinos, the same question, please. You're muted.
I think that it is of utmost importance to hear the person's concerns. We must, however, respect validity. We have to get all the players on the table, come to have a discussion on the matter, present the protocol that needs to be done in order for the paperwork to get to the proper hands. Of course, the board and the superintendent have to be major parties in this conversation, and finally come to some kind of a solution. Again, there are situations where people have different points of view, and we have to be aware of that, and we must be able to everyone with their concerns.
Thank you. Mr. Oditt, same question.
Sure. This is actually a question that has really made me want to run to be a school board trustee, and really, so I was in the military for 28 years, and I was apolitical. And I think that our school systems, our teachers, our administrators, and our curriculum need to be apolitical. Number one. So just as I was, and that's absolutely critical. So. But in this specific case, you need to listen to the person and their concerns that they have, and then bring those forward to the superintendent. But we have, and then also identify if it is a concern through the state that reviews the curriculums and approves the books. So if that's something we need to be willing to elevate that and take that to the state level. But I think this is a concern where we need to make sure that be willing to engage and hold the superintendent accountable to ensure that our teachers are teaching the curriculum and they remain apolitical. We need unbiased education, first and foremost. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Mr. Catrell.
Yes. So if I was a school board member and this happened to me, I would reflect on the Leader in Me program actually in the very beginning, which is seek first to understand before you respond. What is it about the curriculum that is a conflict with their personal beliefs? Understand their position, and then talk to the administration within the district about what that curriculum is. Does it meet the TEKS? Is it something that really doesn't meet the goal of what you're trying to teach? And are there other options that they could consider? So really first and foremost really is to understand what their issue is, and then we address it from there by looking at that curriculum. The curriculum, from my experience and understanding, that is utilized within the district is filtered by the administration. It's researched by the higher ups at the ESC prior to it going into effect. So we would definitely want to reflect on that and what their research told us once we understand what their issue was.
Thank you very much. We're off to the next question, and Dr. Montesinos, you will be leading off this time. Here's the question. On a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being the best, what is the public perception of Clear Creek ISD's school board across the district in terms of trust and respect? Now, if you rated it 8 or above, how would you sustain that rating? If you rated it 7 or below, how would you go about improving it?
Yes, I truly believe that CCISD's terms of trust and respect are quite high, and rightly so. The district maintains a high, for various reasons. For example, the district maintains a high underlying credit rating of AA2 as rated by Moody. It has low administrative costs of 4.42% compared to the area surroundings of 8.55% for those schools of 25,000 and more students. The financial statements are audited. The capital projects and processes and the district are long-term, they're thought out, they are planned ahead, they are open to the public, so that we really have specifics, metrics that people can fall back on, where that trust is obvious. This is a trust that has been earned, and I think that we should sustain it in some similar manner of transparency. And we could always improve. There's always room for improvement, and we will hopefully, once we get to that position, then we'll be able to further delve into it.
Thank you. Mr. Oditt, your response, please.
Sure. So I would rate it high, but I want to talk about how we can improve it. So I would say a 6 or a 7. So
Okay.
I think they've done a good job, but I think it comes down to the perception. And the perception is that and part of this is how you communicate what the priorities are. I don't feel that there's that the strategic plan for the school district is effective in allowing the board to communicate how they're meeting those priorities, or even how to hold the superintendent accountable, and how the superintendent meets those priorities. So, for example, I think the budget, you've touched on that with the bond question. That's something that is near and dear to taxpayers, and who are also the ones that are going to elect us. So they need to be good stewards with the taxpayers' dollars. That means that, and there's got to be a balance there. So we need to be able to communicate. I think taxpayers think it's a bait and switch. We see our tax rate going down, but we see our assessed value go up. So we continue to see the amount that we're paying is more and more. Half of our taxes go to the school district. So, we need to make sure we're getting what we paid for. And one of the questions you asked earlier was the amount of, the $9,000 per student, but that's a little deceptive. That leaves out how much we're paying in bonds. So we've gone from about $17,000 per student in debt and bond to about $25,000 per student now. So I think that we need to be open and honest and have a plan. And that's what I would do to improve it, is to make sure we do a better job of communicating that and showing how that meets our strategic plan long term. And then part of that strategic plan is also, how do we attract and retain top talent in our school teachers? So we need to make sure that we're competitive. We do a good job right now. The salaries are pretty high, but I think we need to make sure we maintain that and we retain the top teachers. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Catrell, your response to the same question, please.
Yeah, and I'll echo Kevin Oditt's comment about, I think it's got a high rating based on perception. And I personally also believe that they are doing a great job. So I would rate them at least an 8. But I would like to answer how would I improve it, because I think there's always room for improvement. I think recently the hiring of Dr. Williams could have come out better to the community of informing them, and I think that's where that transparency part is maybe where people will have some mistrust. Overall, yes, I think perception is that they are doing a good job, but we do need to address any of those concerns, and so we address it by improving transparency on discussions that the board is having. When we do that, then we see the perception, which then reality is that they are doing much better than some may feel. But I think there's always room for improvement.
Thank you very much. Mr. Creedon, your response, please.
8 or above. And I say that from the experience I've had the last 13 years with students in the district. To be honest with you, until this election, I didn't know really any particular contentious issue associated with the board. Now that I'm in the election and I'm monitoring social media a bit more, there's a part of the population that is very unhappy with the board, but I don't know if that's the majority. So I'm going to say 8 and above. The circles that I've been in have been very happy with the board. And so how would I sustain that rating? I believe I can bring a professional, mature, seasoned outlook and will help them with some of the issues that part of the population is not happy with. Possibly communication on the selection of a new superintendent could have been better. And I think certainly through my experience with issues like that, yeah, I'll be able to help the board increase their public perception, because I think they do an outstanding job. And I've got 3 boys that prove it.
Thank you, sir. Time for a little Fast and Furious again. This is another set of 1 through 10. Mr. Oditt, we're going to start with you this time, and I'd appreciate if you'd give me a number.
7.
Number 7. Texas law requires any professional who suspects that a child is being abused or neglected make a report within 48 hours to the Texas Department of Family and Protective Services or to any law enforcement agency. Would you vote to immediately fire an employee who did not submit such a report in a timely manner? Why or why not?
That's a very serious requirement, and it needs to be taken seriously. So the employee should absolutely be held accountable, but I do believe in due process. So we should understand, you can't jump to conclusions. You need to understand the facts, but this would be a very serious allegation if they didn't report the abuse that's required. So, but you have to understand the facts. You can't jump to conclusions on any issue. So not immediately, but it would be.
Thank you.
Something that we want to vote on very quickly.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Oditt. Did you finish? Okay.
I'm done.
Mr. Cottrell, number, please.
Number 5, please.
Number 5. The board approves a new policy by a 6-to-1 vote. During an interview with the reporter, the person who voted against the policy tells parents to ignore the policy. What's your response to something like that?
Well, I'm shaking my head no, because it's disgust, disappointment in who that board member may be. Again, I mentioned earlier that you're a team. You're a team of 8. You're the 7 trustees and the superintendent. And like I said, you stand by the decision as a board, as a whole. And you definitely do not go out and tell parents to ignore the policy just because you're disappointed that it didn't go your way. So no, that would definitely be grounds for some other consideration in my opinion.
Thank you. Mr. Creedon, a number, please.
2 was pretty unlucky for me last time, so let's go with 2 again.
Okay. In the coming years, what do you think will be the greatest challenge for CCISD regarding special education and second language learning?
Yeah, for special education, I think the greatest challenging will be a pressure for funding, and I hope if I was elected, I would be able to thwart that, as well as the challenges that remote learning will be to our special education students. Second language learners, similar pressure on funding, and remote language training is awful difficult, and how we can overcome those obstacles is going to be something of a challenge for the board.
Thank you, sir. Dr. Montesinos, a number from you, please.
Let's do 9.
Number 9. DeJuan Claiborne, who is the president of the League City Regional Chamber of Commerce, comes to your house for tea. What would you ask him about building strong education, business, community relationships, and why?
Excellent question. Because as you know, I believe very strongly in education, but I also have a business side, and I have a business enterprise. So to me, having an education just for the sake of having a title is not enough. You have to be able to put it to use. And the best way to know what fields are needed out there and how we're preparing our students best is to get feedback from the business world, from the business community. Chambers are very important because of that. They're able to give us the pulse of what's happening out there, and what opportunities are available. It may be that, yes, we need a lot of doctors and lawyers, but we also need technicians, radiologists, other types of assistants. So
Thank you. We've hit our time limit. Next is Mr. Oditt. What number, please?
Go with number 1.
Number 1. This is an agree, disagree, and why. Some say that today's partisan divides can be traced at least partly to a decline in civics education in the high schools. Agree, disagree, and why?
No, I agree. And that's part of that, what I mentioned earlier, that we need the education system to be apolitical, we need it unbiased, and we need to teach the kids about civics. We need to teach them to be critical thinkers and how to think for themselves, teach them and educate them, and they will form their own opinions. And the partisan issues need to stay out of the school, and stick to unbiased education.
Thank you very much. Mr. Catrell, a number from you, please.
Number 3.
Number 3. Another agree, disagree, and why? Here's the question, or here's the statement. All students should be required to take a class in financial literacy. Agree, disagree, and why?
Agree. Absolutely 100% agree. I have a senior graduating from Clear Springs this year, and she asked me if they could have a class on adulting, something as simple as that, balancing checkbooks, understanding taxes, property taxes. So yes, I would absolutely say that we need to consider the classes and resources to teach children about financial literacy. Absolutely.
Thank you. Mr. Creedon, a number from you, please.
Number 10, please.
You've got it. Superintendent Eric Williams comes to your house for tea. What would you ask him and why?
I'd ask him what his concerns were. I would like to know what it is that he's seeing from his position that the board can help remove barriers or help him do his better job of administering the 5,000 staff for our 42,000 students. And I'd do that as often as I possibly could.
Thank you. Dr. Montesinos, number from you, please. We have 4, 8, and let's see, 3, 4, and 8 left.
okay, let's try 3, please.
3. Oops, I'm sorry. We did do 3. It's number 4, 6, and 8. Those are the ones. 4, 6, and 8.
Okay, 8, please.
Okay. This is another come to tea question. TEA Commissioner Mike Morath comes to your house for tea. What would you ask the commissioner about the Texas Education Agency and why?
Well, this is a little bit more intricate in that this pertains more to the teachers. And various policies, but my first, and there would be several questions, I guess, in here. One would be, for example, the due process of the teachers. At the moment, it's the due process that is involved is, yes, the procedure on due process, but it doesn't allow them to have the reason why a certain situation took place. I would advocate for the teachers to have more of a not just procedural basis on it. Also, teachers need to be able to have a negotiating capacity, not just by using other agencies, but actually perhaps.
And our time is up. Thank you. It's now time for our concluding comments. We're going to go in reverse order of the introductory comments. These are 1-minute summations. Mr. Oditt, you're first up. Your concluding comment,
Okay.
please.
Thank you. Yeah, so when moving in the military, you pick your location by the school district, and we picked CCISD because it's a great school district. When we decided to retire here so our daughter could finish up here at Clear Lake High School. Again, because it's a great school district. So I want to be a trustee to help to continue to keep the reputation and keep CCISD as one of the best school districts here in Texas. So my priorities doing this are going to be make sure that CCISD is a good steward of the of taxpayers' dollars. You know, we talked about bonds today. No new bonds. We need more. We need to have a strategic infrastructure plan. Make sure they're not spending bond money on projects that weren't in bond proposals. We need to ensure teachers have up-to-date training and the resources they need. We make sure our kids are in school to learn, and we need to educate our kids unbiasedly. And we talk about reducing screen time. That means we need to have books to complement computers. So I look forward to being a trustee. So please vote for me.
Thank you, sir. Dr. Montesinos, your concluding comment, please.
Yes, this seeming to be the last presential interview. I want to let the constituents know that I've been very humbled by this whole experience. I've learned a lot, and I have entertained many situations that I was not aware of before. One of the places that I'd like to be more proactive in is the Hispanic population, the Hispanic demographics, where we have 31 of the students in CCISD being Hispanic, yet only 14.5% of its teachers' populations are Hispanic, where 41% of the students are considered to be at risk of dropping out, with this being at a higher percentage with Hispanics. I want to be part of that board so that I can make this difference, so I can bring diversity into it. So I don't just speak the language, but I also know the culture of both worlds.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Mr. Creedon, your concluding comment, please, sir.
Thank you. Look, the 20th year anniversary of the Afghanistan war, I spent a lot of time over there, and I know firsthand what the horrors are of a society that doesn't afford education to 50% of its population and more. And that is one of the sole reasons why I'm running. I just want to help our school district and our school system to be the best they possibly can be. 4 areas that I would work on if elected would be the safety, health, and welfare of all of our students, teacher retention, special services, and embracing remote technology. I think I have the skill set, professionalism, tenure to be able to really help the board propel this district into the future. And I look forward to being elected and representing all 42,000 of our students across all of our 13 municipalities. And thank you for the opportunity to share my views.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Catrell, your final comment, please.
Yes. Thank you again to the League City Chamber and Dr. Freedman and Ashley. Let me begin by saying that I'm in this race to be your next trustee at large because I have proven myself over the last 10 years supporting this district. I'm the only candidate who has served as a PTA president for within the district. I'm the only candidate who's walked the halls of the Texas Capitol advocating for our children's safety, for teacher pay raises, for mental health screening, as well as teacher incentives for autism. I'm the only candidate who has served a nonprofit within CCISD that's helped infuse money for teachers to have programs of innovation like the Leader in Me, robotics. I could go on and on, but I want everybody to understand that whenever it comes to record over the content of what they're saying is important. So I run on my record, not on what I'm saying. So thank you.
Thank you. On behalf of the chamber, on behalf of the entire community, I'd like to thank all of you for your civic mindedness, your willingness to run and represent our district, and for your participation this evening, your thoughtful questions, your thoughtful responses to the questions. With that, we've concluded the question portion. I'd like to turn it back over to Ashley, again, with my thanks to all of the candidates. Best of luck.
Thanks very much, Dr. Freedman. As always, you do an excellent job moderating these events. And to each of our candidates, thank you again for your time. You all did an excellent job as well. I just want to thank again our viewers this evening, as well as those that may view this in the future. And a couple of reminders, you probably have seen there on the screen this evening, but early voting begins next week on April 19th and ends on April 27th. And then Election Day is May 1st. So thank you again, Jonathan, Michael, Marlene, and Kevin for joining us this evening. And thank you for your willingness to step up and serve our students, our teachers, and our community. And with that, I will bid you all a great evening. Thanks for joining us.